Welcome to the Phoenix Prosperity Podcast, where wealth meets legacy. Join your host, Tim Fergestad, as we explore the journeys of Phoenix's finest to success and beyond.
Hello, this is Tim Fergestad. Thank you for joining us. I'm very pleased to have Rick Marencic with me here today. Rick is the design principal and studio director at JCJ Architecture. Rick is actively engaged in developing and expanding JCJ in regional and national markets. As a lead designer for hotels, restaurants, casinos, and aviation, Rick is currently working on new projects in Phoenix, but also Minneapolis, San Francisco, Portland, San Diego, New York, Boston, Colorado, everywhere, basically. Welcome to the show, Rick.
Thank you.
All right, that's a lot. So, do you have to travel a lot for
at a time? Yes. When I first joined JCJ in 2015, we were doing work for a company called SSP. They are a food and beverage provider at various airports around the country. So that's why you have that giant list of places. And I've worked in multiple airports. Like I know them all by initial now, but basically in Minneapolis, we did some projects that were quite successful. Did projects at JFK. We did projects here in Phoenix, projects at San Francisco. All of them were food and beverage venues. So there's a lot of discipline involved in aviation work. And the discipline comes in how you interface with the aviation authority, the tenant who's hiring you to do the work, as well as the various constraints that exist when working in a high security environment like an airport.
Okay. Right. Okay. And then, I mean, it's got to be very different from a hotel, but not necessarily a casino, because there's probably high security in a casino as well.
There is. It's different kind of security, but the differences between the markets are essentially the venues where they take place. So, for instance, in aviation, there's a lot of restrictions on materials coming in and out, including the food that has to be stored in the kitchens, and how contract workers come in and construction workers come in and interface in that type of an environment. Whereas in a casino, it's typically, especially the casinos in the tribal markets, they're typically located in more remote areas. Mm-hmm. So all of those issues kind of melt away. You have other challenges that you face in how to realize projects in terms of just mobilizing labor to work in more remote areas. Now, in the case of Arizona, we are currently working with a client, Tohono O'odham, for the new White Tanks Casino, which just opened. So this is more of it's not a rural location, but it is a little bit more remote because it's, as we say, it's in East LA, but it's west of Glendale, out by the Luke Air Force Base. And we just finished a major casino for them. That included all the necessary food and beverage to support a good experience for gaming customers. And there will be future expansion plan to that area, which is typical for most of these casinos. They end up being resorts in the end, and they have spas and they have hotels, and they're self-supporting to maintain what I would call a customer experience that's pretty immersive.
Okay, right. So does JCJ do the hotels as well as the casino floors, everything? Oh, wow.
The whole thing. So we'll do we'll do the architect. We're pretty much a single service provider. Okay. And we provide all of the services necessary for architecture, interior design. We'll hire consultants, engineers, parking garage consultants, civil engineers, etc., kitchen planners to realize the more functional aspects of what we do.
Okay. I imagine you mentioned before we started the show that one of the clients you worked with in the past was Rainforest Café. I imagine that's right. in terms of designing an interior, that
was a whole nother universe. But But
Yeah.
yes, so that was when I was with my previous association, Daroff
Mhm.
Design, where I was principal and I worked for 25 years. We had worked for Disney, and that caught a number of people's attention. And there were a lot of these theme restaurants being constructed. We had just completed one for Harrah's called Fantasy Reef. It was an underwater experience, longest running buffet in Atlantic City. It was up
Hmm.
and running for almost 12 years. So that caught the attention of the folks at Rainforest Café. Now, a lot of the themed entertainment folks are very entrepreneurial. So Steve Schussler came to us with a very specific idea of what he wanted to do. He literally created it in his backyard, and it was pretty specific. And so we worked with Steve and his team to realize his dream to sort of roll out his concept in shopping
Okay.
malls around the country. The first one was at Mall of America, your
Uh-huh.
hometown,
Yep. Yep.
and we did not work on that one. But the prominent one we worked at was at Anaheim at Disney, and
Okay.
plus a lot of other shopping malls. Now the whole paradigm with shopping malls has changed dramatically since online shopping. But this was, remember, 1995, 6, 7, 8,
Sure.
9. So they were everywhere. Tyson's Corner, every big shopping mall had, like, Sawgrass Mills had a number of them at different locations. So we did a lot of it.
Okay. Okay. Is there a lot of competition in that space?
Always. It's
And
it's entertainment. So, and hospitality, there's, in the tribal marketplace where we specialize, there's
Mhm.
probably 5 top firms around the country that compete for maybe 80 tribes worth of work. In the hotel space, which is more brand hotel uh, um, type projects or mixed
Right.
use projects, there's even more firms because a lot of
Right.
smaller shops get involved. That's why
Sure.
2 years ago we purchased a very successful firm in Boston called Group One, who specialized in doing nothing but Marriott's, Hilton's, IHG, all the major brand hotels. And we're looking to
Okay.
expand our imprint in the Phoenix area based upon our involvement with this company that we purchased 2 years ago.
Okay. Okay. So the relationships obviously very important, and that's part of that acquisition.
Yeah.
What else sort of sets you JCJ apart?
Well, we work for over 90 tribes in the country, and we were the first company to work with the first tribe to build the first casino. That was essentially, treaty rights were given to the Mashantucket Pequot tribe in Connecticut.
Okay.
And we did that very first casino. And since then, we've proceeded to work with over 90 tribes across the country. So we've
Okay.
not only done casinos, hotels, restaurants, spas, bowling alleys, all the things that happen in a casino entertainment space, but
Okay.
but we've also done that repeatedly since that time period. That
Okay.
distinguishes us from most firms that
Okay.
are in this marketplace and or wanting to be in this marketplace.
Right. What percentage of those projects would you say is physically the casino versus the restaurants versus the hotel and these bigger? They're because,
Uh,
like you said earlier, they're resorts.
the casino's the driver. So each tribe will have a compact with the state. And so it goes state by state by state by state. And compact is essentially an agreement that the tribe has with the state for XYZ number of machines, XYZ number of table games, and the sort. And so that allotment, so to speak, which is equally meted out amongst the various tribes in a state. There's, like, I think 17 different entities here in Arizona. Um, that will determine the size of the casino, right? And it typically, like a 2,000 slot casino, is fairly substantially large. You allow about 30 square feet per slot, but then there's all the amenities that go around it. The amenities are driven by location. So if you're working like at White Tanks with Tohono O'odham, which is west near Luke Air Force Base,
Mm-hmm.
that location will drive, and that population that lives around Goodyear, the locals, will drive the potential business. So essentially, that will indicate, well, for this group, we're going to need a food hall. We're going to need, maybe a Morton's. We're going to need a three-meal restaurant. We're going to need these various things in order to entice people to come to the property. And then eventually it builds upon usage. So as they see their numbers and they realize the volume of work that they're doing, they'll increase the capacity. And we're doing the same thing with Oc Chin in terms of renovation down in Maricopa. They've been there a number of years since they were one of the first tribes to become available to have a casino in the state of Arizona. And with that particular tribe, they have an existing property that we're renovating, and we're basically updating different parts of the casino to current standards. And then we're renovating the hotel rooms. So it works in terms of two ways: renovation and new construction.
Okay. You reminded me, I have a friend here who makes high-end poker tables and stuff, and he offers them to. He has contracts with certain casinos and stuff as well as he's grown. As an interior designer, do you get say over what types of tables or the designs of the tables?
No, that's prescribed by the Gaming Commission. So there's the Arizona Gaming Commission. They essentially say, and they go by more national standards. Well, this is what a gaming table is. This is what a slot machine is, and it's highly regulated nationally and by state.
I was just thinking about the style or the fabric or the colors or any of that.
Even that. That's a preference of the casino themselves. So if they want a different, I've seen burgundy, I've seen green. Typically, the casino themselves will say, we want this. And we sort of go with the flow on that, including how the slots are laid out. We may do slot layouts to test fit a property to see how big it should be, to right size it. But the casino themselves, the people that operate the casino, they will determine the final layout, and they change the layouts constantly. It's not too different than that movie Casino that came out with Robert De Niro a couple years back. There's a lot of truth in that movie in terms of how they operate functionally. They move things around.
Right. Okay. Interesting. So before we talk more like finance and prosperity stuff, I'd like to dive in a little bit more of interior design, how you got started, and what are the highlights of your day now in terms of your creative aspects? Right.
So I studied art, fine arts, and interior design was one of the programs offered in the context of fine arts.
At Michigan?
At Michigan, yeah.
And what got you, what before then, what got you into art and being interior design before that?
Got me into art. I don't really know. I think that my father always drew, as in drawing. He had a cartoon, and he was in the military that he did on the base in near Waco, and so he illustrated a base cartoon that a guy named Private Fufnik. Anyway, he had fun doing it, and we saw his drawings, and he also helped us illustrate different things. So I was no stranger to the idea of having a pencil and making an illustration. And secondly, my whole family made things, and this is true for many families. I mean, I come from a family of masons, essentially. So not only were they bricklayers and stonemasons and carpenters and mechanics, so they were always doing something with their hands.
They're builders, right?
Well, they made stuff and fixed stuff, and
makers,
because they couldn't afford anything, so they learned how to do things themselves. So being around folks and my mother was a seamstress, my grandmother was a seamstress. They all made clothing. They tailored clothing for us from simplicity patterns. So everybody was always making something.
Right.
So from that perspective, it was natural for me to want to make something. But in terms of going into manual labor professions or skilled labor, it seemed like art was very attractive at the time. And I took some classes at a local arts workshop in East Lansing. I'm from Michigan. And that got me very interested in drawing and painting. And I always wanted to be an architect also, as a young person. So because my father had drawn plans for the house that we lived in, and he had built other homes. So I was no stranger to me. He had all the drawing instruments. He gave me drawing instruments when I was 11. So it was sort of like it just flowed naturally in that
Okay.
area. And I liked art as much as I liked design. So I went into interior design so I could find employment. And I
Okay.
just stuck with it because um, it's a very creative profession in the sense it's very hands-on. It involves color, form, texture.
Yeah.
It's very nice. So that's how
Okay.
I got started.
Okay. Excellent. And your current out of all the hats you wear now, I'm sure you have administrative hats and project management hats and other stuff, but how
Yes.
creative are you able to be in your weekly routine nowadays?
Well, very. The
Okay.
creativity is a little different. I don't do everything myself. I
Right.
have other people, I get other people to do things, but I work with them. I spend a lot of time teaching. Now, some people call it mentorship. I simply call it teaching. I'm conveying information that will be useful to someone. So,
Yeah.
so in that sense, you know, if the folks have the capacity to listen, then they have the capacity to learn. And so my job is to figure out how to convey the information so they accept it. So I spend a lot of time just figuring out strategies for enticing people to be curious about things. And so I do spend time designing. I spend time also checking work for
Right.
quality control because
Okay.
at a certain point after 40 years of working, you need to distance yourself from the practice of doing everything yourself all the time to delegating to other folks and then checking the work to make sure it works with our quality standards for design quality as well as constructability and functional
Right.
solution to meet the client's needs. So there's an interface there, and that's I'm largely part of that interface.
Okay. Okay. Is every year a little different? You continuing to grow and with new challenges that you welcome?
Yes, every year involves more challenges, and so um, the idea of continuing learning is central to what I do and to what other folks do that are similar to what
Excellent.
my
That's
professions. You
I
have
find
to keep
that
learning. Yeah.
yes, I find that it's common among successful people, but also more so among artists and stuff who I think it was Bob Dylan who said an
He
artist is
not
always
busy
in
born is busy dying.
right. An
Sorry, you were
artist
going to say?
no is always in a state of becoming.
Well, you are, but you have to temper it because you're working for somebody else. So,
Yeah,
so,
a little
so the
pragmatic.
answer is yes. I'm always in a state of learning, and
Right.
and I practice fine art on the side. I'm also a writer, so I do a lot
Excellent.
of different things. I've written a novel, which
Excellent.
I'm learning though. So every single thing about like writing a novel essentially got me to the point where my basic skills of writing improved in terms of
Right.
how I write an email,
Oh, for sure.
how I write a meeting report, all that stuff, because it's his name, Malcolm McDowell, 10,000 hour rule. So
Okay.
if you work at something for
Hmm.
10,000 hours in a focused way,
Yep.
you will eventually acquire a level of skill that
Hmm.
is above average, even better at that particular thing. So you have to be patient with yourself as you continue to learn. You
Yep.
also can't do everything at once. It's not like I sat down and decided I wanted to write this thing. It basically just started maybe 20 years ago, and then over time you become more and more serious about it, just like I did with the interior design profession.
Right. Right. Okay. Great stuff. Thank you, Rick.
Yep,
That's
you're
that's good
welcome.
stuff. So part sometimes on the show, or as a part of the show, I like to talk about prosperity and ensuring future success. I like to talk investing sometimes. Can you speak to maybe what's been your best and or worst investments?
Well, there are no worst investments because I'm
Okay.
conservative. So,
Well, and
and I
hopefully you're
got that
always
from my
learning from
dad.
them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so from my father,
Okay.
especially, and he learned from other folks as well. He learned the value of low interest mutual funds.
Okay.
So he got me started early
Nice.
in Fidelity and Vanguard. And essentially, that's where it resides. And so over time, and there are, you know, mutual fund has been proven to be over a long period, as long as you don't play with it,
That's
a very
with a lot of
sound investment
investments. Sure.
strategy. So
Right.
that's sort of my rule. I mean, I have some Apple stock that my mother bought on a ruse. She bought it in like 1991 when she got her first Social Security check, and she didn't touch it. And then when it split, my dad said, "Well, buy some more with the Social." So, okay. So she got lucky. But, she's a kid from the Depression. It was a joy to get a Social Security check. So she used it to invest. I don't know. Maybe she was watching Regis and Kelly, and somebody said you should buy Apple stock. But the point is that sort of, you look at those things and you say, oh, all right, maybe I should go out and buy Nvidia. Oh, no, it's already, it's done. But I have a lot of friends. Oh, I sold my, well, why'd you do that? But, oh, it wasn't making them. What'd you do that for? Because it
Right.
pays a dividend. So you have to think about things like that.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Okay. And
Yeah.
so no real estate in your portfolio yet?
House,
Okay.
house
Just your
here.
primary residence?
Yeah. But we got
Okay.
lucky because we bought in 98 in Philadelphia and it went up in value. And
Okay.
then when we bought here in 2015, it still had not gone up again. So we had
Right.
enough to buy two homes. So we ended up buying one in Flagstaff, but it's all gone crazy recently.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
Not your
don't,
normal markets for sure.
the sticks aren't worth the money. So it's the land. I call the sticks like
Yeah.
the wood construction.
Sure. Sure. Sure.
So,
Sure. Okay. Excellent.
yeah.
And given your success, what is sort of your desired impact in Phoenix or just in your life?
Well, here, from the viewpoint of business, we definitely would like to expand our reach into the brand hotel marketplace. A lot of the firms that do work here in Phoenix are either small type firms and or they're firms from outside of town that come
Okay.
in to work with owners here because the owners are from outside of town.
Right.
So expanding our knowledge and brand footprint here is now ever more present with the acquisition of the firm in Boston, who's very well known amongst the various brands around the country.
Okay.
And so that's sort of that is a goal, I think, this year to work on. Well, we were working on it last year as well. It's not an easy market to break into because people come with various preconceptions, hotel owners, like, oh, I want to use
Right.
so and so because they did a great job for me in Memphis. But
Right.
the reality is that on certain projects, especially mixed use projects or renovations, a firm that's local that can provide the architectural services as well as the interior design services can ultimately save the owner a lot of money. And that's
This is like
where
in dealing with the local
understanding,
entitlements and reviews and permits and
especially Paradise Valley, okay, it's
okay.
very tricky. One has to read up on it. It's not
Okay.
like you can do it in your sleep.
Okay.
It's deceptively simple, but it's not. And so you have
Okay.
to be aware that any entitlements, especially entitlement, because they have a lot of little ones that you wouldn't expect, like, oh, lighting can't be over this amount of watts and or foot candles. Uh, the lights have to, for outdoor lighting, have to be XYZ number of feet away from the street. And then how they have the map drawn or the entitlements. The map might have a mark in one place, but the building just on the opposite side of the mark where the boundary is entitled to be part of Paradise Valley. So you have to really have the patience to sort
Right.
through it. And we have the skills and the knowledge of
And the
the folks
experience, right?
that can do it, as well as the consultants who are savvy on it, including engineers and code review consultants. And we use those as valuable resources to navigate this territory because it's tricky.
Okay. Sure. Sure. Okay. So Rick, as we're wrapping up the interview, I was wondering if you
Yeah.
had any exciting plans or initiatives in the next 6 or 12 months. Anything for 2025 that?
I don't usually go by yearly initiatives. I usually think in 5-year blocks or more.
Okay.
So the initiative would essentially be what I just described,
Okay.
really expanding in the local market far beyond the tribal community.
Okay.
We are doing all our work in Arizona now because we've
Okay.
managed to secure work with 2 major tribes, and that's really got us going in a solid way. But
Excellent.
now actually there's a 3rd tribe as well that we're working with in a limited fashion, but I can't mention that now. But essentially, taking that base that we've established over the past 15 years in the state of Arizona
Sure.
and expanding it even more to New Mexico, maybe, that would be, and especially expanding in terms of the local investment work that's being done for hotels, would be the primary goal for this year plus in the future. It's there waiting for us to really take advantage of. It just you have to build up the staff to the point where they're ready to do it. You have to have the right background in terms of providing these services, which we do now quite a bit with the
Okay.
acquisition. And then I think the next thing is a bit of luck. You always need a bit of luck to do any of these things. But if you're prepared on the first 2, usually the third can be dealt with as a benefit.
Right. Right. Instead of bad
Yeah.
luck. Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So if people would like to connect with you or learn more, what should they do?
Just send me an email. rmarencic@jcj.com. It's easy.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you everybody for watching and listening. Thank you very much, Rick
Thanks.
Marencic, for joining me today.
It was great, Tim. It's great to be with you today, and thank you so much for the good interview.
Excellent. Well, we'll look forward to connecting more later.
Okay, thank you.
Inspired by our guests? Visit phoenixprosperitypodcast.com/guest and join us on the show and share your success story with Tim. The spotlight awaits.